What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Ask Alex, where this is the show where we take your questions and answer them here on this show. I'm your host, Alex Hampton, and today we have a jam-packed show for you guys today. I went back to 4 questions because there's a lot of stuff that's just been coming out, even though there's no movies playing at the moment right now. Just a lot of cool movie news that we have gotten literally over the week. But I could not do this show without my amazing Ask Alex panelists. Jeremy, how are you doing today?
Ian, does this make me hip?
Don't make me lie to you, bro. Mayonnaise.
Okay. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alex, and I would like to speak to your manager. That was disgusting. I can't have that. Karen video coming soon on my channel.
Yo, like that's crazy. So, like I stated before, guys, we have a jam-packed show for you guys today, and this is your very first time ever watching this show. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, then hit that bell right next to it. That way you get all the notifications of every time I'm releasing a video here on my YouTube channel. And as always, guys, if you want your topic or question on this show, just send me an email at theaskalexshow@gmail.com. That's theaskalexshow@gmail.com. Just send me your topic or questions that you want on the show. And since we're still somewhat in quarantine, be more than happy to answer them here on the show. But before we continue on the show, I would like to congratulate Jeremy Branch for hitting 2,000 subscribers. This guy has put out a lot of content, and I'm very proud of him because this is someone who's dedicated to this, and I really am glad that he was able to hit that. So congratulations, man. That was really dope.
I really appreciate it, man. I really do. And it means a lot to those of you guys who check it out. On one hand, I'm like, it's just 2,000, but I feel like I've earned it at the same time. And I feel like we've got some momentum going. I think a big part of it is the show that we all do together. I know that collaboration is key, so I'm just really happy to be able to have a network of friends who are all as passionate about doing this stuff as I am. So thanks to you guys for sure.
Anytime, man, anytime. So we definitely are great. We're definitely glad that he hit that milestone. And just like any of us who hit milestones like this, we love to congratulate people who do that, because I know on YouTube it's definitely not easy, but at the same time, to have 2,000 people watch your content, that's actually pretty cool, So let's go ahead and jump into the first question, which comes from a Ariana Acosta. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And she writes, "Hey Alex, so after all of this Snyder Cut excitement, there are rumors that suggest that Darkseid has a bigger role in the Justice League than we thought. Are you excited to see Darkseid have a bigger role in the Snyder Cut?" So thank you for your question, Ariana. So if you guys hadn't already, me and my panelists, we've actually done a video on my channel about the Snyder Cut. My feelings about that haven't necessarily changed that much. I did read a report, literally, I believe it was yesterday. I read a report that they've actually cast a Darkseid actor when they were originally doing the Justice League, and I'm reading some other stuff that he's potentially coming back to reshoot some motion capture stuff. I like Darkseid as a character, and I think it is exciting to see him being portrayed in Zack Snyder's cut. Maybe he is the bigger villain. Maybe he just has a small cameo. But I'm also reading that, back in Batman BVS, that scene where Batman sees a dream and he sees, Darkseid basically saying he's coming in a subliminal way. This was basically supposed to be the payoff for Justice League to see him in this movie. Now, to answer if I'm excited about it, on one hand, as a comic book fan, yes, I'm excited about it. On the other hand, I'm like, guys, I don't think that this is going to be canon. I said this on the last time we did talked about this. I said, even if you guys do introduce Darkseid and these new things for the Justice League, some of the characters of the Justice League are no longer part of the DCEU. Ben Affleck's not Batman. There's potential that Ezra Miller could or could not be the Flash. And on top of that, Henry Cavill, there's rumors to say that Henry Cavill is potentially coming back. There's also rumors to say that he's just doing his own thing with Netflix and all this other stuff. So it's very convoluted. So for me, yes, as a comic book nerd, I would love to see Darkseid. However, I again, like, my points kind of remain the same for the Snyder cut. I feel like it's more of an extended cut than it is a actual different movie. After reading some things and talking to some people, they are saying that it is a completely different movie. However, I don't know what that means though. When you say completely different movie, like, is the narrative completely different? Are the scenes that different where majority of the Justice League movie is not what we were supposed to see? I don't know what that means. So I am excited on one hand. On the other hand, I'm like, there's really no payoff for me for it, because we probably won't see Darkseid in any future DCEU movie. But Jeremy, you heard this news about Darkseid becoming a larger part of this Snyder Cut. What do you think of this news, and what do you think about the Snyder Cut, I guess essentially being a completely different movie?
So, one of the interesting things about the DCEU in the current form is we get that weird Flash vision, where he comes in the dream and she's the key to all of this. It's real cryptic. We never knew what that meant. It never came to fruition. Mm-hmm. There's the apocalypse nightmare that you're referring to, where Batman's the duster and a pair of demons kind of swoop in and kidnap him. And all of this is allusions to this bigger thing that's going to happen later on, to be the guy that's going to compare it to Marvel. I'm prepared for what the comment section, well, you're always going to compare it to Marvel, but it's the other comic book movie thing, so I feel like it's fair to do. Like, when they planted the seeds with Thanos so very long ago, it was building to something that had room to breathe over time, where with these DCEU movies, they all happened very fast. So what you said about payoff, I kind of agree with, is like, if Darkseid does show up in this new Justice League movie, it's not going to feel like this big catharsis, this big cathartic payoff that we've been waiting a decade for, because it all kind of it was so disjointed and just kind of random in the first place. Nobody really knew what to think of it. So the guy's name is Ray Porter, I believe. Ray Porter is the actor that was confirmed to have played Darkseid in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Mm-hmm. Thanos was an incredible character because what Josh Brolin was able to do with him. I don't know how much of that's the writing versus how much of it's the actual performance. They were able to tap into something that made Thanos more than just the apex bad guy, like the final boss. And that's what I always look at Darkseid as. He's like just the big baddie at the end. I couldn't tell you what makes him different from Thanos in their comic book origins. Like, they're pretty much interchangeable to me. Now, granted, I'm not a diehard comic book fan, but just kind of superficially, I look at him and I'm like, it's the same shit. It's the same shit. The big hulking bad guy or whatever. And what we got in Justice League with Steppenwolf was every bit that archetypal dumb villain that I'm talking about right now. That, like, who cares about that character that's just bent on conquest? They've got no complexity to them, no nuance, no real kind of motivation that you can understand. Just a big shitty CGI bad guy so that everybody can fight against him or whatever. And so I don't care who it could be Steppenwolf, it could be Darkseid, it could be Quiet Riot, it could be some other 80s rock band. I don't care. It doesn't matter who it is. Basically, they all kind of fit that same role to me. But this does make me even more curious. Like, where does Darkseid come into this cut of the Justice League? Are we going to get Steppenwolf for the bad guy for half of it, and then Darkseid shows up at the end? I don't know. Again, I'm very curious about this, but not from the standpoint of, like, I can't wait to see the fully realized good version of the movie that I've always wanted to see. It's more just like, what even is this? And I'm still very curious about that.
Yeah, and you pull up a really good point of, like, how are we going to see this movie? Are we going to see Steppenwolf as the major villain until a certain point, then see Darkseid. And like he said, comic book wise, a lot of people try to compare Thanos and Darkseid. In a lot of ways, they are similar. Very comic book nerdy here. At one point, Darkseid did get the Infinity Gauntlet with the Infinity Stones with their Marvel DC crossover. Again, that's so convoluted. That would probably never happen in the movies. But like Jeremy said, like Darkseid is the big baddie. And now that we're gonna get him potentially in this Snyder Cut, I don't understand how much of the payoff it's going to be for the fans. But Ian, you've heard this news, man, about Darkseid playing a larger role. Do you think that this will be a good thing for the Snyder Cut? And what do you think about the Snyder Cut as a whole potentially being a different movie?
Well, I gotta know how big this role actually is, because if it's actually like an appearance of him doing something, I don't know if I'm for it, just because, like, you guys talked about payoff and you guys did a little bit of comparing to Marvel. It's hard not to compare to Marvel, and people want you to not do that, but I'm not dissing this character as a bad character that no one likes. Obviously, he's a great character, and he's something to be reckoned with. But my issue would be, like, the payoff, like you were saying. Thanos was sprinkled throughout the MCU until Infinity War. You saw, like, him smile in the first Avengers, which the first Avengers was like the fourth or fifth movie. That was the first time you saw him in that one. Then he grabbed the gauntlet and was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And he made that appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy. So he was just there, sprinkled in it. Justice League is like the third DC movie. This is my problem with that. Like, if I'm a casual movie fan, just not into this, like, I didn't know much about Thanos until I actually saw these movies, and I watched a little bit of the show. If you're just going to throw him at me like, hey, this is Darkseid, he's like their Thanos, this is the third movie, and you guys should be scared of him, and we're not going to give you any character development, because we got a crazy amount of character development for Thanos in Infinity War. We're not going to give you any character development. He's just going to come here and be like, hey, fear this man. You don't know much about him. You don't know what his plan is. I didn't even remember what Steppenwolf's plan was, to tell you the truth, and from the first one. Maybe we can get a better from the Snyder Cut. Maybe we can understand that a little bit more. I just knew, hey, it's Steppenwolf. He's came to get your box. Pause. Anyways, that's all I remember. I mean, it's not really a rewatchable movie. So with that being said, I would like to see I would like to put Darkseid along the lines of the Joker, Thanos, Darth Vader, Frieza, all the best villains of all time. But I feel like this movie right here is going to kill that. It's going to kill it if you bring him in there so quickly. That's my rant, and that's my thoughts about it.
I mean, Ian raises a really good point. Like, there wasn't any character development. Actually, Justice League was the fourth movie. It was Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Wonder Woman, and Justice League. There wasn't that big of a build up. And let's just be clear, when Batman vs Superman came out and it did what it did, not a lot of people were excited for Justice League. And then when I remember early on in Justice League, people from like Collider, Screen Junkies, Variety were visiting the set of Justice League saying, oh, this movie looks so good. It looks like a Marvel movie. And then when we finally got the movie, we're like, what the hell is this? Like, this is not a Marvel movie. But, what do you guys think about this new development? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And let's go ahead and jump into the next question, which comes from a Michael Cortez. And he writes, hey, Alex, so the new Tenet trailer came out and it looks amazing. What do you think about this movie, and do you think it will actually make its July release date? Thank you for your question, Michael. So I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I can't really say there isn't a movie that I don't like, because I like them all. There's some that they're like obviously slower than others, continuity-wise, but I am a huge Nolan fan, and I love what they have done with Tenet. I saw the trailer yesterday, and it just looks aesthetically amazing. The color palette that they're using, it's just mind-blowing what he's doing with these films. Tenet reminds me a lot of Inception, just on a different level.
That's a good point.
My only problem with Tenet is that I don't really understand the movie. And maybe my panelists can provide more context to it. There's an element of time travel that only seems to work with one person, and I don't know if they're properly explaining that. Not to say that a trailer is supposed to do that; it's supposed to keep you hype. I don't understand it, but I'm intrigued, and a lot of that understanding, for me at least, is even though I don't understand it, I'm very excited to see what the story and what it's really about. There's one scene where he just walks into a room and Robert Pattinson's like, how come these bullet holes are here? I mean, how did this happen? And this dude's like, it hasn't happened yet. Then all of a sudden things start to happen. I'm like, okay, explain to me how that is going on. Like, how is he able to predict or endure these time travel elements in a, like, it's weird. Like, there's time travel elements that are only affecting him but not affecting the rest of the world. Like, the world is not being changed from that, so which I find kind of odd and I don't understand, but again, I'm interested in it. But to answer your second part of your question, do I think it will make his July release date? I'm kind of twofold on this. Listen, granted, there are some things that are opening back up, but let's be clear, there are other places where these cases have been spiking. I do not feel comfortable going to the theaters right now. I don't. There's some things that are going on here in Orlando where they're allowing people to go to certain theaters. I'm not going. I probably won't be going to the theaters probably until January, where I have at least a good time to see where everything has gone between now and January. With that being said, I'm not trying to discourage anyone from not going to the theaters, but you do what you feel is best for yourself. However, with that being said, if there is a major spike and people are not comfortable with going to the theaters, this movie's going to lose a lot of money. And if I'm Christopher Nolan, if I'm him, I would say, okay, maybe I should wait till the fall. But to his point, his argument is that, well, in July, my movie and maybe a few others will be the only game in town, and I'm a recognizable director, so people are going to go see my movie. That's true, but also I don't know if a lot of people are willing to get themselves sick. So that's the thing. Like, I don't know if that's going to pan out. But Jeremy, you heard this news about Tenet. Did you see the trailer, and did you like the trailer? And what do you think about the movie as a whole? And do you think it'll make its July release date?
First things first, let's hit on the easy one. The July 12th release date. Christopher Nolan seems to have been standing firm on this idea that his movie is going to be released on July 12th, hell or high water. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I'm going to be the first person to go in there and test it, I guess that's yet to be seen. I, like you, I'm a very big fan of Christopher Nolan's body of work. He's one of the filmmakers on the internet that I feel like has so much clout with his name, right? Like, we talk about how it's franchises that drive audiences to movie theaters these days. He used to be the actor that would make people go see, hey, there's a new Will Smith movie, let's go see the new Will Smith movie. And then it became more of a thing about, oh, hey, the new Marvel movie, let's go see the new Star Wars movie. It's about franchises. But there's a couple directors out there. I would say Denis Villeneuve is one, but he's definitely not got the same name recognition as a Christopher Nolan. There's something about Christopher Nolan, probably starts and ends with a Batman, that makes him very relatable to all sorts of audiences, even though the movies that he does are very cerebral in nature. They are thinking man's science fiction in a way similar to what Denis tried to do with Blade Runner 2049, and we saw that didn't exactly work out well for him. However, Christopher Nolan consistently draws in audiences, and I find that really fascinating because his movies are they're very, I don't want to say devoid of humanity, because he tried to do a little bit of the more emotional stuff with Interstellar, but his movies are more surgical. They're more like from an intellectual perspective, and Tenet in itself basically just means a belief in something, to hold a belief in something. What's interesting is you mentioned how it reminded you of Inception. Inception plays with time. Interstellar plays with time. Tenet, the logo moving in a circular motion kind of indicates the circular nature of time. We start to look at the way that time plays out in reverse in the trailer itself. So I don't know what it's about. And I think that's one of the awesome things about Christopher Nolan is all the way through his career, up until he did Batman, all of his movies had this thing. There was a hook about it, whether it was Memento, where you're following this guy around and you're like, why does he have all of those tattoos? Well, you stick around, and by the end, you figure it out, right? Following is another similar kind of like, where are we going with this? And then the destination arrives, and you're like, oh, now all of a sudden it makes sense. But to sell you on what that thing is in the trailers ruins the experience of figuring it out. So I'm happy that it's cryptic. I'm happy that it's vague. I really like the cast. I think John David Washington is really good. After I saw him in BlacKkKlansman, I'm a big fan of him. And then obviously Robert Pattinson, who is playing Batman in this upcoming movie. So there's kind of a relationship between the previous Batman and the new Batman coming out. The trailers look dope, dude. When you mention color palettes, I think the thing that's interesting about Christopher Nolan is he's so again, kind of surgical in his approach. Everything is very muted. There's a lot of grays and whites and blacks. It's a lot of very monochromatic color palettes. It's never like bold and vibrant in the way that some other movies are. But I'm very, very excited about this movie. I still hadn't seen Dunkirk. That's the one Christopher Nolan movie I didn't see. Wish I would have caught that in the theaters. So if I can, I'm going to go see Tenet in the movie theaters because I feel like it's one of those movies that is designed to be seen in the theaters, and it would be a discredit to him not to have it shown in the theaters.
Yeah, and like Jeremy said, Christopher Nolan's been hell bent trying to get that stick to that release date. More power to him. You know, I don't think I'll be going to the theaters to go see it, unfortunately, because I just want to be safe. But if things are cleared up by then, hell yeah, I'm definitely gonna go see it because I'm a huge fan. But Ian, you saw this trailer. Well, if you've seen this trailer, what did you think about this trailer? And what do you think about just the concept of what Christopher Nolan's creating for this movie, Tenet?
And let me tell you something. When I first saw this trailer, like before the pandemic, it gave me anxiety in a good way. It was like everything I wanted in a trailer. It was visually amazing. It had me on my feet. It had me glued to the television. And like you were saying, I had no idea what the heck was going on, but I was extremely intrigued. Just like a lot, besides Batman, of course, just like a lot of his movies when it comes to his trailers. Like Inception, I was like, what is this about? I don't get it, but I want to see it. And I'm crossing my fingers. It doesn't seem like Christopher Nolan's that type of director, but I'm crossing my fingers that we're going to get a hint that Inception and Tenet are in the same universe. That would be awesome. That would be great. That's what I'm hoping for. Like, this is either like a sequel or a prequel or something like that to it. That would be great. He's a very unique director. My girl's actually watched the Inception for the first time. She's asking so many questions, and I'm like, this is one of those movies that you have to watch like 3 or 4 times and you'll get something different. I'm telling you, Tenet's going to be the same way. Christopher Nolan's one of the best directors of the century. Will I be seeing it in the movie theaters? Absolutely not. But I will be seeing it this year, one way or another.
Yeah. And I agree. I probably won't be seeing it in theaters, but I'll definitely see it one way or another. But what do you guys think about this trailer? How do you feel about the movie that he's creating with Tenet? What do you think about just the elements that are happening in that movie? Just jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And let's go ahead and jump into the next question, which comes from a Ryan Lewis, and he writes, "Hey Alex, so in the midst of all this DC news, it seems like Ruby Rose is leaving Batwoman. It's being reported that both the studio and Ruby Rose peacefully agreed to this decision, but do you think they should cancel the season instead of recasting her character?" Well, thank you for your question, Ryan. I'm just going to sum this up really quickly with that situation because I don't know. I mean, I really don't know exactly what happened, so I don't want to like play amongst the TMZ stuff that's being reported. But what we know is that Ruby Rose played Batwoman. They're saying that both her and the studio amicably decided that this was the best decision for her to leave. I'm also reading reports from like Deadline and Variety that that she didn't really like being on the set. She got severely injured on the set, and also like she wasn't used to I guess the whole notion of playing on a TV set versus being on a movie set. I know from personal experience, when you're shooting a movie, you know, you only need your actors for the scenes that they're in. When you're a lead in a TV show, you're there every day for at least 12 or 15 hours a day or more. I know when Stephen Amell, what Stephen Amell said about when he was doing Arrow, he was on set almost every day, even when he didn't have scenes that he was in. Only because he's the lead character. And when you're playing a lead character, especially a superhero character, it requires you to be there for hours upon hours upon hours. And the reports are saying that she didn't really gel well with that being a requirement of her being a superhero. Now, to answer the question, do I think they should recast her character or cancel the season? In Ruby's Rose defense, I feel like she kind of got thrown into this. She got cast into this from a crossover, in the Elseworlds crossover. They gave her a season. In the midst of her season, she was in Crisis on Infinite Earth, and towards the end of her season, she had this big battle at the last episode of her season. So she's been on the go ever since she'd been casted. I was not necessarily a huge fan of the show. I've seen a few episodes of it. I definitely enjoyed her character in both of the crossovers. However, since the fans already know who she is, I think it's kind of hard to just recast the character and tell everybody, "Hey, this is Batwoman. This has been her the whole time." I mean, I think that's that's very convoluted, and I've never seen that on TV. I've seen where side characters were recast, but never a lead character where they are the main role, like the main role, especially a main superhero role. Like prime example, but the only example that I can think of that has happened, like in the movies, where the Batman character, Batman had been recast like in multiple movies after I forget the actor.
Yeah. After Michael Keaton played him, Val Kilmer played him, and then George Clooney played him.
Exactly. After Michael Keaton, but they kept the same actor who played Alfred. So in a way, they were all connected, and people didn't have a problem with that. So I mean, I don't know. I think in my opinion, I think they should definitely cancel the season and just keep her around as a secondary character. Maybe move her to Legends of Tomorrow. I will say this before I pass it down. I never believed her for her being the protector of Gotham. I'm sorry, I never believed that. Only reason I never believed that because they're setting it up as Bruce Wayne disappeared, Batman's gone. But if that were truly the case, Nightwing or Robin would have taken over Gotham. That's so when they introduced her as Batwoman leading the charge, I didn't agree with that. I didn't, because it didn't, even the villains that she fights in the show are not really real. They're not menacing compared to a Green Arrow. But I feel like I've gone too long on this. Jeremy, what do you think about this news of Ruby Rose being recasted and her just leaving this Ted Pool show of a superhero?
Man, that I can't really speak to the quality of the show. I can just very peripherally speak to the kind of, the hype around it. It seemed like that poor girl got stuck with the raw end of the deal regardless. Like, people wanted representation. They hired Ruby Rose, and then she wasn't quite the representation that they wanted. She got bullied by the alt-right incels. She got bullied by the woke SJWs. Everybody unanimously decided F Ruby Rose. And I guess the best that I can do, because I can't offer a lot of insight, is to bid her a farewell. So I'm going to do this, and I don't want either of you guys to react, to interrupt. I've got to get through this. And this, Ruby Rose, if you're listening, this is to you. Every rose has its thorn, just like every night has its dawn. Just like every cowboy sings a sad, sad song. That's all I got.
Okay.
Manager right now, sir.
Okay. Before I pass it to Ian, just gonna let you guys know Jeremy's officially fired. Ian, what do you think about this update of Ruby Rose? I'm kidding, guys. Jeremy's not fired, but
I don't know if I could top that. Oh my god!
What do you think about this news?
Well, you're absolutely right. Every rose does have its thorn. This one, it wasn't a thorn for everybody. I personally never watched the show. I found her okay, I guess, but like when it comes to those DC television shows, I'm always glued to the Flash, and I'm always glued to Black Lightning. I tried the Legends of Tomorrow. It wasn't for me either. But those are my bread and butter, those two right there. I do like when they do the crossover episodes. So the little that I did see her, I was like, she's okay. I'm not really gonna watch the show. That being said, this is an easy fix for the television show. I think that the brilliant writers of the television show, which should be helping the movie world, by the way, they have they have made these multi-universes, like beyond so many of them. So you can always just say, oh, well, we're done with her. She went back to her universe. This is a Batwoman from this universe. And, you know, that they did that with Batman, and there's other, they did it with the Flash. There's other characters or other actors or other representations of these characters. So it's really not as hard as people are saying it could be. You can cast an Asian Batgirl for all you know. It doesn't even matter because they've written it so well that they could do whatever they want. They are not boxed into any type of script thing that they have to deal with. One thing though, I will say, the bullying does need to stop. Seriously, on both sides, like the crazy woke people and the incels. Like seriously, you would think these people are not even fans of comics because the way they talk, like comics are the most diverse, woke things you could read, especially X-Men, especially anything that has anything to do with representation. Like it's. You would think it wouldn't be up their alley, but these people are just angry and looking for something to be upset about. That, so they attack a beautiful young lady that's done nothing to her but just do her job. So if it's not for you, like me, I am not going to go to sleep at night thinking, oh, she ruined my childhood. I have to write a letter. I have to go at this person personally. Fuck you. Go get a life.
Yeah, and I agree. And what they're referring to when she got cast. Like, people were coming at her saying that she wasn't gay enough and all this other stuff. And I was just like, people, listen, the trolls out there are idiots. There are people who have made videos about that. People that I'm not going to say who, but people that we know in the space have literally said that she was just terrible and didn't fit. Like, listen, you can have your opinion about a show, but to attack someone for who they are, who they're trying to portray in a show is actually so stupid and so asinine, and just that level of disrespect is just so dumb. So I definitely agree with my panelists here. But thank you guys again for that question. If you, what do you guys think? Do you think that she definitely should have been recasted, or they should cancel the show? How do you guys feel about her leaving this show after having a successful season? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And guys, we have a really good last question that I wanted to say for the show. And this last question comes from a Leon Green, and he He writes, "Hey Alex, with the recent news of the Snyder Cut, do you think that directors should go back and re-edit films that came out years ago because of the theatrical cut did not fit their vision?" Thank you for your question, Leon. We actually kind of touched on this last time we did a video about the Snyder Cut, and basically we were just saying, like, you know, I'll repeat what I said in the last video. I said, so are we gonna get the director's cut of Suicide Squad? Are we gonna get the director's cut of Birds of Prey? Funny thing, after we put out that video, there is a news clipping of David Ayer wanting his division of the Suicide Squad. And we shared, and we have this group me were part of, we shared it, and we just started laughing about it. And, you know, now that I think about it, as a director myself, we all want to see our vision played out when we're directing a film of any kind, right? But the problem is that when you're working for a studio, the studio has the final say in the scenes that are being put out in the movies. That's just the reality. Like directors don't have much say when it comes to how trailers are being cut, unless you're Christopher Nolan or Steven Spielberg. You don't really have much say. You really don't. I can tell you that a lot of Marvel films had studio interference. Even though those movies are great, not a lot of those movies, like we think, were a full vision of the directors. This all comes down to ownership. When you're an independent director, you can direct and put out whatever you want. The only problem with that is that you don't have the capital like these studios do. So that's the thing. So as a director, yes, I think we should definitely have the opportunity to put out what we've put out, our vision on screen. However, I disagree with the notion of going back to films that came out years ago and try to recut and re-edit them. That's the reason why when they get released on DVD, there's a director's cut, there's an extended cut, there's all this other stuff. So to then go back, like, that's why I disagree with David Ayer when he says, oh, well, I want to go back and redo Suicide Squad in my vision. I feel you as a creative, but I don't really care to see that. I think that there should have been a clause in your contract that say, hey, if the theatrical cut is not my vision in the DVDs that we sell, we need to do a director's cut, or I'm not directing the project. That's simple. That's all you have to do. Not everyone gets that luxury, but Zack Snyder was able to do it with the Snyder Cut, Batman vs. Superman, and Watchmen. So if he's able to do it, it's definitely possible to do it. But Jeremy, what do you think about directors going back to re-edit films that have come out years ago and having their vision play out on screen?
You nailed a lot of the same sentiments that I have. I'm not exactly familiar with all of the contractual inner workings of the industry. I do imagine that Zack and Deborah Snyder have quite a bit of clout over at Warner Media just by things that have happened historically. He seems to have more influence than most directors, than many directors do. As a creator, and you just now said it as well, and I'm sure Ian will kind of echo the sentiments, it's like, it's mine. I always feel like I should be able to go back and improve my thing, right? Mm-hmm. You mentioned David Ayer. There's the Josh Trank thing with the Fantastic Four. There is a long laundry list of movies that ended up shitty because they got bad notes from the studio. The studio funded those movies, though, right? Exactly. So that's where it gets really complicated. It's like, yeah, you got dealt a crappy hand because you didn't have the $100 million that it took to go out and make that movie on your own. You look at George Lucas, one of the most prolific filmmakers of all time, one of the most beloved franchises of all time. People hated that he went back and did the McClunky thing. People hated that he made it to where Greedo shot first. People hated all of the special edition stuff where Jabba's tail got stepped on. That was George's right to do that, but it's also should be our right to go back and purchase the original copies of the original trilogy before it got all muddled and stuff. And that was one of the things that George decided when he sold off Lucasfilm to Disney is like, hey, you're not able to distribute anything pre the special editions. So that's where it gets to be a little bit more like, I don't know if there's a right or wrong side. I come down on the creator side. Like, I'm on the creator side all the time, every time. But I do feel like us as fans should have the option of like, okay, maybe I do want to see the Snyder cut of Watchmen or the extended cut of Watchmen. Maybe I want to watch the original cut of Watchmen, and I should be able to have the option to do that. Or maybe David Ayer can take the money that he's made off the other movies that he's made and go in and re-edit and reshoot and change Suicide Squad and put it out on his own. But yeah, there's a relationship and an agreement between filmmakers and the studios, and that's kind of the beginning and the end of the conversation. It's like whatever they worked out, that's just the way it is,
Yeah, absolutely. And like we were saying earlier, like, the way they have it worked out initially, a lot of directors don't, although they're heading up the film, they're casting people, they're putting producers in line, they have a lot of responsibility, but you have to understand that when you're making a movie for a major studio, they hardly have any say into what's going to end up in their final product. I guarantee, like just a prime example before I pass it to Ian, when Kevin Feige got like the head of Marvel and they start doing these Marvel films, even as the latest Avengers Endgame, Kevin Feige and his team were on set every single day of production and pre-production, and they said, okay, add this, take this away, add this. That's why when you look at Russo brothers movies outside of the Avengers, they're not held to the same standard. They're not like I was just watching Extinction and 21 Bridges. They're not as big in spectacle like the Avengers are, and you can definitely tell they had some help there. But Ian, how do you feel about directors going back to films and re-editing them to see their vision showcased on the big screen?
Well, I'm actually working on my next video. After I put this one out, I'm going to be doing a spoof about what movies we should go back to. Let's see the director's cut of it. And I'm gonna do that to a point, but I do agree that we should always give the creators their free range to an extent. I do think I would always like to see the director's vision and the writer's vision. When studios get involved too much, it does become a clusterfuck. It does. Sometimes for the better, but at the end of the day, it's never the vision that the director had, and we don't ever know what that vision is, and I would like to see that. That's why the Snyder Cut thing is interesting. I don't know how much it's going to change how good the movie was, but it's a very interesting thing, and I'm really interested in seeing how that's going to do with the future. It seems like our society is being run by popular opinion at the end of the day, so I'm interested in seeing that. I do want to touch on one thing you mentioned about Marvel movies, how the studios get involved. That was one of what's his name, Josh Whedon's problems with Avengers: Age of Ultron. He actually had a certain vision, and he felt like Marvel got involved a little bit too much. So should we be over here campaigning for the Age of Ultron Josh Whedon cut? I would love to see that, but at the same time, you know, it's in the past. Maybe we should keep it moving. But there have been directors like James Gunn and Ryan Coogler that actually said Marvel let them do whatever they wanted. They've been on a record and said they just pretty much said, hey, touch on these points like the Infinity Stone, or like so we can move on. It has to go on this train to go into the next movie. But other than that, do whatever the heck you want. So I think they learned a little bit after the Josh Whedon thing, after Age of Ultron. Like, maybe we should let the directors do a little bit more than we're making them do. So let's always campaign for that. Always campaign, whether if it's good or bad. We can only judge it after the movie, but we should always campaign for the vision of the creator.
Definitely. And I agree, we should definitely campaign for the vision of the creator. It's just that a lot of times we don't really get to see that. But thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Ask Alex. Before I send out the outro, what do you guys think about this video? Jump into the comment about, directors going back into re-editing things. Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And again, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Ask Alex, episode 69, by the way. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Jeremy, where can we find you on social media?
Make sure that you check out Jeremy Be Terrible on both Facebook. Actually, that's the one place you should not look for Jeremy Be Terrible. Look for Jeremy Be Terrible on Twitter and Instagram, and most importantly, Movies Are Terrible on YouTube.
Awesome. And Ian, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at I_controversy on twitter.com. And I'm trying to get like you guys. I'm trying to be up there in the 2000s. So please check out my YouTube channel. I'm cool too. I mean, I'm down. Go to youtube.com/thecontroversy. I'm trying to get up there with these great guys.
Yes, and here's the cool thing about Ian's YouTube channel. As someone who's been watching it, this brother, although he is very controversial, he's very consistent in what he is saying, and I love that about his channel. So everyone who loves like movies, pop culture, even hip hop, definitely check out his channel, The Controversy. really fun things going on. And the reason why I said that he's very consistent, you look at most channels out there, and it's not to shit on most channels, they're not that consistent in terms of their points of view and content. And I've watched his content. This brother is very consistent in what he does. So I think that if you guys just check it out and just like the video and just subscribe to his channel, I guarantee you're going to be in for a lot of cool content. So thank you guys so much for supporting all three of us. We do appreciate your love and support. And as always, you guys, stay safe and have a blessed day.